Here we are again. I am making my way through the book of Esther, and I'm really happy to be reading it with you. As I record, I can see myself, so I keep fussing with my hair. Sorry about that. I'm Pastor Cindy at West Des Moines United Methodist Church in West Des Moines, Iowa. This could be going out all over the world. Here at our church, before the coronavirus, we had a Bible study that met every Tuesday night for an hour, and it was called #JustRead. And what we did, we just read. We'd read the Bible, we'd read a few chapters, a few verses maybe, and make our way through one of the books. And we'd stop from time to time and just talk about it. Now that we are all facing the coronavirus, we can't do that anymore. And so instead of #JustRead, now it's #JustRead with Just Cindy. So sorry about that. But what we're going to do is try and continue our Bible study, and the way that we'll do this is that I will just read a part of the Bible and just chat with you about what it means to me. If you have feedback, please feel free to email me or to visit us on our Facebook page, again, West Des Moines United Methodist Church, and just tell me what you're thinking, what's happening with you. We're reading the book of Esther, if you want to grab your Bible. I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version, and you may be reading for another version, and that means we'll bump into words or verses that don't sound the same. That's okay. We'll just keep on reading. I think the story will make sense. The book of Esther is the perfect book to be reading right now because it's about courage and conviction and doing the right thing when it's time to do the right thing. This person of Esther, just really an admirable character. Somebody I think you can't help but like. But you also know her dilemma. So to catch you up, we're now in chapter 3, and when we started in chapter 1, we're in the country of Persia. All of Israel has been destroyed. Jerusalem, everything, in a horrible devastation. And the people of Israel have been carted off, have been deported. It's referred to as a diaspora. And so some people were left behind, but those people, particularly people who had some sort of talents or skills, they've been hauled off to Babylon, which later became Persia. And they're living in exile as refugees. And our main character, Esther, and her uncle, Mordecai, are both living as refugees, trying to make their way in this country. Now, the story begins with the story of the king. King Xerxes rules the entire area, super rich, controlling all sorts of things. In chapter 1, he had a huge, big party, and he invited his queen, the number one woman in his harem, actually, Queen Vashti, to come and dance before the big banquet he'd been holding. The banquet had been going on for 180 days. For the last 7 days, they have been partying and drinking without restraint. And he invites Queen Vashti to come and parade before the men. She refused. No big surprise in that. And so she was banished. And the leadership of the country determined you can't have a woman defying her husband in that way. And so she has been banished as an example. And now they're out. They went out and looked for someone to replace her. A huge, exploration was made of the country to find beautiful virgins. For a year, they were given cosmetic treatments. This is all in chapter 2, and prepared for the king. The women, one by one, go and spend the night with the king, and eventually he selected Esther as the woman that he wanted to be his queen. Now, what he doesn't know about Esther is that she's a Jew, and he is not at all. He doesn't know, in modern vernacular, he doesn't know that she's a refugee and an immigrant and an outsider, someone he probably shouldn't have had in his court. Her uncle, Mordecai, also a Jew, keeps an eye on her from a distance. And just at the end of chapter 2, Mordecai had discovered that there was a plot to kill the king. He got the word to Esther. Esther got the word to the king. And that really put her in good stead with the king. She also let the king know it was her uncle Mordecai who told her. And so both of them now are in the king's favor. And this is where the story picks up then in chapter 3. So let's read. After these things, King Xerxes promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the officials who were with him. So, in other words, what the king has done is made Haman kind of his vice president, sort of his second in command. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and did obeisance to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" When they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen to them. They told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would avail, for he had told them that he was a Jew. So this probably has a lot to do with why Mordecai is not bowing down to Haman. We're going to hear more about Haman's character. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance to him, Haman was infuriated. Verse 6. He thought it beneath him to lay hands on Mordecai alone, so he's not going to do this himself. So having been told who Mordecai's people were, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. Now it's revealed to us what kind of character Haman is. This is somebody who would commit genocide just because someone failed to nod to him. We kind of see his ego. We see his character. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Xerxes, they cast pur, which means the lot, before Haman for the day and for the month, and the lot fell on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, "There is a certain people scattered, separated among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it's not appropriate for the king to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, so that they may be put into the king's treasuries." So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is given to you, and the people as well, to do with it as seems good to you." Now, if you had the king's signet, this would have the king's initial or some symbol of the king on it. And if you made some sort of decree, you would take that signet and you would stamp it on that decree. And it would say that you had the authority of the king. So that's what's happened to him, is that Haman has been given all of this authority. If we back up a little bit and we go to verse 7, where they cast pur, which means the lot. Pur was a Babylonian word, and it meant an annual celebration of Jewish reprisal. I'm looking at my notes in the bottom. Haman's contribution to all of this is to raise a military uprising against the Jews. So in other words, the Jews who were in that area, they were having some sort of celebration or reunion, perhaps as a way of telling themselves they had survived this horrible thing that had happened in their country. And Haman has witnessed this, and knowing Mordecai's a Jew, it gives him an opportunity to punish all Jews. We see his cruelty, we see his overreaching sense of control. He didn't need to do this. We see something about the kind of man that he was. So now we get to verse 12. So he's been given all this authority by the king. The king's secretaries were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps and to the governors all over the provinces, and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script, and every people in its own language. And it was written in the name of King Xerxes, and sealed with the king's ring. And who had done that? Haman. Verse 13, letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces, giving orders to destroy, to kill, to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Now, this is what had happened to them in 586. And so now we hear them sort of telling this story again, remembering the destruction that the Jews had faced. But it's going to have a different outcome this time. So verse 14, a copy of the document was issued as a decree in every province by proclamation, calling all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went quickly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. They sat down to drink, almost as though what was happening to them had nothing to do with this destruction that was going out all over the land, this plan that all would be killed. They're about to step into genocide, and they are set aside, isolated in the king's palace, enjoying themselves. Well, this is the story of Esther, and we're going to continue. I'm glad that you tuned in today. Here we go, trying to stay connected, trying to stay God's people in this time. Blessings to you. I'll see you next time with another chapter of Esther. Bye-bye.